Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/PettyRevenge, where people get little wins on others and the stories are super duper satisfying. And in today's episode, OP tells a tale about a nightmare Karen roommate, guys, who's not only a freeloader, but a thief as well, and OP destroys her. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. So back in September, we noticed the vacant unit beside us was getting moved into by a new tenant, with furniture, decor, etc. One weekend, not too long after moving in, we heard what sounded like a little party with music and loud voices well past midnight. We heard a lot of people coming in and out of the front door, but letting the door slam each time, to where it shook the walls. We thought maybe they were having a housewarming party or a friends get-together at the new place, so we brushed it under the rug as a one-off incident. For the next few weeks, we noticed a variety of people coming in and out of this apartment, and none of them seemed to be the same individuals. Parking also started becoming much more busy than usual as well, as the cars kept changing, so something seemed off. My girlfriend started working night shift for her job not long after the neighboring apartment became occupied. She's a light sleeper and noticed that all throughout the morning and before going to work, the neighbor's door was always slamming and shaking the walls. My girlfriend understands that people are active in the day, and she can't ask people to cater to her night shift needs, but she felt the constant slamming of doors was not only disruptive, but unusual behavior. One particular morning was the straw that broke the camel's back. She had finally had enough because of the effect it was having on her sleep. She wanted to see who was slamming the door. My girlfriend heard the door slamming around 10:30 a.m., and then she got up and witnessed people walking to their car with suitcases and leaving. Soon after, a man arrived and pulled up the front doormat and retrieved a key and let two women with cleaning supplies into the apartment. Each time they entered or left, the door would slam and shake the wall. Seeing this, she searched Airbnb and almost immediately found the rental unit next door. Same floor plans, wall paint, flooring, etc. To our surprise and anger, we found a total of 4 listings in our apartment complex alone, on the same host profile. That's 10% of the apartments in the buildings. Through the listings, we found the individual's LinkedIn and business website. On his website, he claims that he does something called rental arbitrage. Essentially, this is renting out a long-term rental on a short-term basis, and in this case, lease an apartment and rent it on Airbnb for profit. And this can be done legally with the landlord's permission. The lease agreement, however, does not allow for subletting on short-term rentals. These people were renting out 3 of the 4 ground end units offered, units with unique floor plans. The 4th unit was a handicap accessible unit. That's right, this man and his business partner leased an apartment meant for accommodating people with disabilities, with the intention of using it for his short-term business empire he was trying to build. Our city and region has been feeling the squeeze on apartment availability, and these dickheads are contributing to the problem. It was at this point we took this personally, as we had our own problems dealing with apartment availability, waitlist, disappointment, and frustration. My girlfriend called the leasing office and notified them that the neighboring unit is being rented on Airbnb, and asked if that was allowed, to which the office then gives an emphatic absolutely not, and asked for the listings to be sent to them in an email. Later that day, the office called her back and said that they had notified the tenant and they will be inspecting the apartments the following afternoon. After the inspection was completed, the office notified that they had sent a cease and desist of any rental activities outside the lease agreement or face eviction. They also informed us that you should not have any more problems concerning the matter, and if you do, don't hesitate to give us a call, followed by a smiley face. Now this a-hole has 4 leases that he's stuck paying $1,500 a month for, and he can't make any more money through Airbnb. The guy's bleeding money at the tune of about $6,000 per month. His only legal options are to continue paying for them or to break the leases and face a penalty and vacate. Last week, we watched as movers emptied out the apartments. I'm sure they lost deposits and were heavily penalized for breaking the leases. A very expensive lesson for being a greedy entrepreneur. Don't be a dickhead, folks. Also, don't piss off a night shifter who's trying to sleep. Guys, OP's girlfriend is a hero. Like, all that constant noise was probably affecting the other residents in the building too. What a scummy thing to do though. And guys, I love revenges that cost sleazy people crap tons of money. Like, that's the a-hole tax for not fixing that door, sir. And to think, if the guy had fixed the door and the slamming wasn't constant, he might still be getting away with those B&B units. And guys, while we're on the topic of loud neighbors exposing their frowned upon activities, listen to this next post. So my upstairs neighbor has been having an affair with a married man for about 4 months now. And usually I wouldn't care, but because it's an affair, he comes over at odd hours of the night and they have sex very loudly. And it wakes me up and prevents me from sleeping. Now you may be asking, how do I know it's an affair? Well, the guy's never spent the night and his car has car seats in there. So here's some backstory. I've had issues with my upstairs neighbor prior to this. She would throw parties on Monday nights, and she would get home at 2 a.m. from work, and she would pace around her condo having loud phone conversations. The woman is 40 years old, and she's throwing parties with 20-year-olds and having affairs and living like a teenager. I tried to talk to her like a normal person about my concerns, but she doesn't care. And I've had to get the association involved to stop the parties. I hate her. So with that, I decided to learn some more about this mystery man. I looked up the license plates, found an address, searched the address, and found a name. I then took the name and did some social media stalking, and I found the man and his wife's profiles. I then made a throwaway account and messaged the wife about the affair. I haven't seen him now for a few weeks, and I'm sleeping really nicely. Honestly guys, OP did that wife a favor. Like, reporting the dude was a double win for OP. But I do have to say guys, that being able to trace someone's personal life to a T just by their license plate is pretty darn terrifying, isn't it? Like, I never knew that was a thing, and now I'm a little bit scared. So this happened in 2008, 2009, but I thought this community would appreciate this story. In 2008, I had just left my husband. I caught the guy cheating multiple times, and I was just over it. A new girl, who we'll call Amy, started at my job, and we made a fast friendship. I was in the middle of packing up and moving out of my house, and I needed a roommate for my new apartment because my wages weren't gonna pay the bills. So we moved in together and lived peacefully together for a while. I was moving on with my life. I had gotten a better paying job, was spending time with my friends, and I felt okay with life at that time. At the time, I was 25, single, and not looking for anything serious, so I would have a few people stop over a few times a week. Amy was cool with it on the surface. It did not affect her in any way. My friend didn't hang out at our place, he didn't eat at our place, he didn't use our household supplies. My relationship with him affected her exactly 0%. But I guess she was a little green about the fact that I was getting some attention and she was not. She would openly flirt with him, go visit him where he worked, etc. But he was absolutely not interested in her, and this is where things started to go downhill. For some context, she had been married a few times before. She was 13 years older than me, and the dads had full custody of their respective kids. Now, she was dating someone, but he was already in a relationship, so he wasn't about to commit anything besides stopping by for 30 minutes after he worked every day. I tried to point out all the red flags, but she was convinced it was love. This dude used to hit on me constantly right in front of her. The guy was also very open about being in a committed relationship with his girlfriend, so I have no idea why Amy thought that this was going anywhere. So after a few months, I met someone that I wanted to be serious with, so we started dating. We'll call this guy Tom. Tom and I got serious pretty fast. He was living in a horrible situation, so he moved in with Amy and I pretty quickly. I think it was after about a month of dating. So we have our room and she has her own room. The bills went from 50-50 to 33-33-34 to make sure things were still even. We had a shared kitchen, living room, and bathroom. After Tom moved in, she started openly hitting on him in front of me. Every guy I had at my house, even just friends, she had to hit on, and none of them ever took her up on it. Every single one turned her down, and I think this added greatly to her oncoming behavior. Over the next couple of weeks, Amy did a complete 180. She stopped paying rent, refused to buy any food, and she would just eat whatever Tom and I bought, and she would not wash her dishes. We had 2 cats, one was hers and one was mine, and she would never clean the litter in her room, so her cat would use the hallway floor as a bathroom every single day. Every day when I got home from work, there was a big steaming pile of cat crap right inside my door, sitting in the middle of a giant puddle of urine. My cat was locked in my room at night with her own supplies, so there was 0 chance it was her. It was the same thing every morning by the front door. Whenever she was done eating the food she stole from me, she would set her plate with the leftovers on the kitchen floor for her cat to come pick at. She would leave the plate there for days, to the point where if I didn't pick them up, there would be multiple plates on the floor, with food in various stages of decay. All my dishes started going missing, except for the cat's plates, of course. And what dishes were left, she refused to wash ever. She even used my toilet paper, my laundry soap, even my tampons. This went on for about 2 months, and it was getting progressively worse. She would use panty liners every single day, and she would change them multiple times a day and stuff them in the garbage can in the bathroom. She would leave it there completely overflowing and spilling on the floor for days until I caved and put on gloves and threw them out. The can would be full in about a week, so this happened a few times. And that's not even the worst of it. The worst is when my expensive DSLR camera went missing. I was a photography hobbyist at the time, but it was my dream to be a professional photographer and own my own photography business. I would shoot stuff for friends and family as practice, and one day I grabbed my camera bag from the shared living room, and as soon as I picked it up, I felt my heart sink into my stomach. You know that instant dread that grips you the second you realize that something truly gut-wrenching has happened? I opened the bag, and of course the camera's gone. That was an expensive camera for that time of my life, and it was a gift from my parents, so I was truly devastated. And the thing is, I couldn't prove a thing, and I wasn't even sure how long it had been missing. It could have been her boyfriend that took it, but either way, it was gone. So now this is it. This was the last straw. I need this woman out. I went from a nice girl to effing psycho in about 30 seconds. I'm not the violent type and I hate confrontation, but I'm not waiting for an effing eviction to go through. And I didn't have the money for that anyway, so here's where I start my petty revenge. If Amy wants to live here with me rent-free, stealing my stuff, hitting on my boyfriend, and neglecting her cat, so be it. But it's gonna be on my effing terms. Now, one vital piece of information is in my divorce, that dickhead had moved back in with mommy, and I took everything from the house to my new apartment, so I owned everything, and the lease was in my name. I started by changing the Wi-Fi password and the computer password. The following week, I had my cable company come and remove all the cable lines to her room. I then bought a small fridge for my room and a cabinet, and then put all my food and personal supplies in my bedroom, and then put a secure lock on my door. I also hid my pots and pans, and then locked up the soap and toilet paper. The cabinets were empty. I paid for it all, and I would be the only one using it. When her cat crapped on the floor, I would pick it up and smear it on her bedroom doorknob. The overflowing bathroom trash cans filled to the brim with her panty liners were dumped back on her bed. I removed the knobs to the washer and the dryer. I did everything possible to make her life uncomfortable, and I did other small stuff, anything that came to mind. A few months prior, Amy and I had been working at the same store, and she borrowed another coworker's laptop. She ended up getting fired, but she never gave the laptop back, and her coworker was really trying to get it back from her. Amy ghosted her, of course, so while she was out one day, I went in and took the laptop and gave it back to its rightful owner. That's when Amy called the cops on me, and she said I stole her computer, but I explained what happened. She admitted to the cops that the computer wasn't hers, and the cops said it wasn't their problem anymore. And that one really made her hate me. Amy wasn't working at the time, so it's not like she had money to do anything or buy anything. She was literally just existing in my room in my apartment. She would disappear during the day, but I had no idea where she was going. She moved out after about 6 weeks. When she moved out of my apartment, I didn't even know she left. I just noticed that she wasn't coming or going for about a week. So Tom and I cleaned out her room. She left clothes, broken furniture, a cardboard dresser, and 5 39-gallon garbage bags of trash that we collected from massive piles of panty liners, rotting food, and trash we found in the room. It's a miracle we didn't have roaches. I found all my missing dishes, silverware, and cups, just covered in moldy food and grossness. I just threw it all away. I wish I still had the photos though. Oddly enough, about 6 months later, I opened my back door to take out the trash, and my camera was in a bag hanging from my doorknob. Now I know Amy definitely didn't return it. For about 2 years after, every time I would find out that Amy was living with someone, I would message them and send them photos of her room, papers in the trash that had her name on them, and I would tell them the whole story. One time, it caused the people she was living with to throw her stuff out on the porch. She had just moved in, and they had small kids, and they didn't want to risk it with her. I stopped right after that. She knew it was me telling them too, so I figured I had sufficiently made my point. Oh, guys, just thinking about OP's roommate living in all that crap is literally making me gag. Like, I don't know what it is, guys. Leaving plates of food on the floor for her cats to pick at and just letting them pile on the floor. It bothers the crap out of me. Like, was this woman raised by wild animals? With that said, though, the cat deserves so much better than her, and OP's revenge was freaking awesome. And oh, if you guys think the roommate was already crappy, OP comes back with this little one-liner edit that makes her even worse, guys. OP says, when she left, she took the cat with her, but not before she threw my cat outside. My cat was missing for 10 days. Here is some context that led up to my petty revenge. This happened about 5 years ago. My ex-wife and I were married for 2 years, together for 5. Things were declining in the relationship badly. Well, my ex found another partner, who I'll just call new partner. Instead of just leaving or starting divorce proceedings, they decided that I needed to be the bad guy, so they could ride off into the sunset or something. I have mental health issues that I was actively seeing a therapist for. Now, I'm not saying she had to stay and deal with my mental health issues, but she gaslit, manipulated, and used my mental health against me. A side effect of most of my mental disorders is a poor short-term memory. She would regularly say things that didn't happen, or saying I was remembering something wrong. My ex also had her new partner helping her as well. It was hard to tell what was up from down. They were both telling me that I was a horrible person, and it was difficult to not believe it, as it was already 2 versus 1. But they would also rope in mutual friends as well, and this caused me to spiral worse, even though I was in therapy to try to get better. They would also put me down constantly, telling me that I was fat and unattractive, killing what little self-esteem I had. My ex even told me one day that she had fallen out of love with me shortly after we got married. Everything hurt so much. Well, like any beaten dog, eventually I snapped and I lashed out after a fight with my ex. It was one of the darkest moments of my life. She declared that we were done. She told me she was moving out shortly thereafter, and I was at rock bottom. She moved out a month and a half later, and she removed herself off the lease at the beginning of the following month. My ex didn't take everything with them, despite the fact that I didn't fight them. It was her stuff. More importantly, she left behind a $12,000 paperweight of a car that she was still making payments on. Thankfully, at the time she got the car, I had seen how horrible the reviews were for that make and model, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I refused to put my name on that vehicle, and I ended up being right. It wasn't even a year after she got it that the transmission was destroyed and it sat there in the driveway. For some context, my landlord had a clause in our lease against broken down vehicles just sitting on the property, and the city did too. So I kept asking her when she was going to come get it, and I got the runaround. She would say she'd come get it and either went silent or pushed the day back. My ex even tried to convince me to lie and say it was mine. I flat out told her no. I didn't want to wind up in trouble for having a broken down car that wasn't even in my name. During this time, I ended up befriending a neighbor who was determined to dust me off and get me back on my feet. I'll call her A. Well, between A and my therapist, they finally got through to me that I didn't deserve any of this and that she needed to get her crap already. And here's the revenge. It was weeks of going back and forth with her to come get her stuff. It was now 30 days since my ex had been taken off the lease. The idea of her popping up whenever she wanted made me extremely anxious, and I vented to A. A then pointed out that I could have the car towed, and that's when I got the idea and we plotted. I gathered up the last of her stuff from inside the house and I put it inside the car, and then called the non-emergency number to report an abandoned car. They sent someone out and got my info and some info off the car and then put a sticker on it. They said the owner had 72 hours to remove it or I could remove it. I warned my ex one last time that she needed to come get her car. Silence. 4 days go by and I still hadn't gotten anything from her to make plans to come get this stupid broken down car, and enough was enough. I called the tow company and had them come pick it up. The best part was, it was at her expense. She would have to pay them when she finally decided to do something about the car. I filmed and took pictures while the tow guy loaded it up and sent it to my ex, giggling like a maniac the whole time. Once the car was gone, I felt a sense of relief that I'd never felt before. My ex had zero legit reason to return to my house. My phone was blowing up within the hour from my ex, who suddenly had plans to remove the car that she had neglected to fill me in on, now bombarding me with angry texts saying that I was trying to ruin her life. I told her that I wasn't, and that I had warned her repeatedly and she had ignored me, and all I wanted to be was left alone. That if I was the bad guy, then fine, I accepted that. I then blocked her and locked down all my social media. That's the moment I felt that I could finally begin to heal and move on with my life. And I'm not going to lie, it felt good to get some payback for the 10 months she made my life a living hell. Now that was a great petty revenge, guys, and honestly I hope it costs OP's ex a lot of money to get that car back. And I might be reaching here, but maybe that was the ex's plan, just leave the car there to continue to torment OP on a daily basis. But whatever it was, I just wish OP the best. Like, getting rid of that car and her stuff must have felt so good. And for all who are wondering, I scoured the comments and OP is freaking happy now. Dating someone who's not A, unfortunately. But could you imagine what a love story that would have been? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /petty revenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's super satisfying stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed, subscribe so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled People episode, where Karens are running around stealing people's husbands. Ain't that something? Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie will see you guys in the next one. We love you.